Welcome to EZA Homeschool Academy.
The transatlantic slave trade, one of history's most heinous atrocities. It employed the forced displacement and enslavement of millions of African men, women, and children. These people were stolen from their native land, shackled, tortured, and dehumanized. Their destination, the Americas, where they were to be chattel property, used for their skills and labor by their European and Euro-American buyers. The untold horrors and inhumane treatment that took place during and after the journey to the Americas were those that would make the very soul of any normal person quiver. How? How or why would anyone justify the disruption and undeniable horrid, inhumane treatment of an entire group of people? Economics. Like the advent of every other atrocity, the fascination to accumulate power and wealth have driven many societies to an insatiable desire to acquire more power through resources, segregating themselves from those they deem as others, even among their own. Consequently, it was this very train of thought that emboldened the endeavor of those who sought to justify the need to marginalize, capitalize, and incentivize the colonizing and pillaging of foreign and domestic lands. Modern-day Ghana, which was dubbed the Gold Coast, was rich with natural resources that intrigued the interest of Europeans and Muslim traders. Many set their sights on this land due to its wealth in precious commodities such as gold, ivory, pepper, and gold. These were the main attraction for foreigners that traveled to West Africa. While enslaved laborers were also exchanged at the time, it was not until later that it became prominent. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to venture to these lands at the behest of Prince Henry, who sponsored the voyage in hopes of riches. During the late 15th century, the Portuguese would cement their presences in the area, establishing trading posts in Ghana, creating a fortress, elminacastle, to conduct their trades. This fortress was used to protect valuable commodities from potential rivals and aggressors, both European and African alike. As previously stated, while not prominent, the need for labor, primarily forced slave labor, was not prevalent. This, however, would soon change, as Europeans in the 16th century turned their eyes to plantations in the Americas. With the symbiotic relationship between the Americas' growing plantations and the need for labor, Europeans' desire for enslaved Africans became ravenous. The once desirable commodities, ivory, pepper, and gold, would soon be dwarfed as the need for labor in the Americas replaced it. As the slave trade began to increase, so did the competition to seize control of the lucrative slave trade. Europeans and African kingdoms vied for control over the slave trade. Conflict between the Portuguese and other European countries such as the Dutch, English, Swedish, and Danish would see an exchange in claims to the valuable slave trade. The 17th and 18th century would also see a transfer of ownerships of the slave trade as European powers prostrated to each other after losing the ability to defend their claim. Who were the parties responsible for the Maafa, the African Black Holocaust? While it is easy to point fingers at Western Europeans and those stationed in North and Southern America, we must not forget the role Africans played. African traders such as Edward Barter, Thomasewusi, John Canoe, and John Capes played a pivotal role as well. It was alleged that these men were three of the foremost prominent arbitrators for the slave trade between European and African traders. As a result of cultural ignorance, we are not sure of the actual names of these African traders, as alias were assigned to them by their European contractors. However, as stated by Winston Churchill, history is written by the victors. The retelling of history through the eyes of an oppressive regime could pervert a people's legacy for their own ends. It was believed that some African traders maintained their anonymity while dealing with their European handlers. Nevertheless, whether or not the magnitude of their involvement was true, there are those among them that were praised. John Connew, for example, for fighting against European colonizers. With that being said, there may be discrepancies on the degree of Africans' involvement in the slave trade due to potential misinformation on both sides. Still, one cannot argue against their involvement at some level. Africans themselves practiced some level of slavery, but this was in far contrast to what it evolved into when Europeans enslaved Africans for the Americas. That is to say, while African tribes enslaved adversarial tribes, they did maintain some rights. Unfortunately, the same would not be true for their European counterparts. Furthermore, conflict among them were for territorial claim to land and the income generated due to its ownership, which was not exclusively linked to the transatlantic slave trade. Never again would their feet be cushioned by the soil in which it was accustomed to. Never again would they be able to shade themselves under the trees that protected them from the hot days while the wind soothed their skins. Never again would they be able to nourish their bodies with the bounties of their homeland. Never again would they be able to commune with the place they called home. They would traverse many hardships, as what awaits them in the Americas would etch in their souls a wound that may never close. Desecrated, shackled, and immobilized. Life aboard the ships to the Americas were rife with disease, death, and misery. Their fire, however, would not die out so easily. While it fluttered during the storm, the spirit of their ancestors huddled around the flame, ensuring its stay. Sankofa.
As always, thank you for watching. Tell us what you want to see next. Email ezahomeschoolacademy@yahoo.com. Like and share our videos. Please subscribe to our channel.